Good afternoon and welcome to MAQ TV as we continue our program leading up to the induction ceremony, which is carried for October the 3rd. That's the U.S. Cricket Hall of Fame induction ceremony, carried for October the 3rd, and that will be done via Zoom as well, sponsored by MAQ TV. Joining us today is one of the inductee, and that's David Sentence, and he, of course, will be one in and amongst around 12 of the guys who will be inducted into the Hall of Fame, which, of course, has been recognizing the talent of people in and around cricket for over 3 decades. Now, tell us, David, good afternoon and welcome to MAQ TV.
Nice to meet you.
Well, tell me a bit about how you feel about being inducted into the U.S. Cricket Hall of Fame.
I feel very honored. I think it's a wonderful institution. Institutions in America are fairly weak as far as cricket's concerned, so I think any way you can support something that recognizes what people are doing out there, it's actually helpful to get a sense of what all the other Hall of Famers are doing, So you get a chance to share ideas and so on, which is important.
Give us a bit of your history in cricket and your involvement.
Well,
take us back to long ago and up to this point of being recognized.
Yeah, well, I started playing backyard cricket in Kenya back in the 50s, and played for a lot of local clubs there. I went up to boarding school in England and then played club cricket there and some of the Premier League stuff. Played in Lincolnshire quite a bit, and then when I came to the US, I came to UCLA and they were playing there. Turned out to be the Hollywood, the University Cricket Club, which had been the Hollywood Cricket Club had played in that area since the 1930s. So I was very surprised to see what a long track record that cricket had in the United States, and that got me interested in the history side of it, because that's what I was studying at Edinburgh University and UCLA, and so I wrote a book on that as well, to get a sense of how the history had evolved for US cricket. And I thought it's important to know where we're coming from on a lot of this stuff. And
tell us a bit about that book. Give us an idea about that book, how long it took you to compile, and where can people benefit from the substance in that.
Well, basically it was 8 years research, and in a lot of archives around the world. I didn't get a chance to go on the Trinidadian one, but I did find some Trinidadians involved in the 1812 expedition up to that burned the White House. So that'll be out in this particular case. I think the main points that came out of it was that cricket had been in the United States as part of British North America. So it was established 150 years before baseball, and was also, obviously it was underarm and all this sort of stuff, but it was slaves on the plantations were also joining in. So America's first team sport was cricket. And that was researched by George Kirsch as well, who had done a lot of work. And then, when it came to the evolution of baseball, the cricket has really helped in a big way. And the Wright brothers in particular, George Wright also got the West Indian community involved in 1892 in Boston and had prizes for the West Indian community. So as far as integration of cricket up in New England compared to Philadelphia, which was an all-white aristocratic cricket, you had these things going tandem back in the 1890s during the Gilded Age, and at that time, America was ranked probably number 3 or 4 cricketing nations in the world. And I think probably behind the scenes, Lord Harris, because it wasn't part of the Commonwealth, tried to exclude them. So those files are at Lord's in the 1909 section, and perhaps we need to dig a bit deeper on that. But yeah, so I think also, more recently, cricket's social sort of involvement is important as well, because Lord Constantine, working in Trinidad, as you probably know, and CLR James, those great historians and cricketers as well, did a lot for breaking down racial barriers in cricket. So Trinidad actually is very, very important in that regard. CLR James trained Eric Williams at Howard University. And so when you get those connections, then of course, when Trinidad becomes its own country in the 1960s, and this is in the new book, all of the embassies open up, including Pakistan and various other places like that. So now all of a sudden you've got, where there was one British embassy, you've now got 20 or 30 embassies, all of whom have cricketers in them. So Washington D.C. cricket took off like a rocket in the 1960s, and there was World Health Organization, United Nations. They were all hiring, but they were all hiring third world people, at that time, and also American immigration policy changed. So, and in the mid 60s, the CIA were using cricket as a shield, and so they were in Pakistan attending under Ayub Khan. They were attending various cricket matches. Eisenhower was, believe it or not. And then, guys like Bhutto played cricket in Los Angeles in 1947 when he was at USC. So the overlap between world leadership and cricket is a bit more detailed than cricketers today realize. And I think, that in and out. So that's really what we have to take ourselves more seriously, I think, as the impact we've had on American culture.
I think back in the Caribbean here, those who were working in the plantations, it was the only way that they could have expressed themselves through cricket to their superiors. And of course, that is why it was actually born out of that, at least here in the Caribbean. David, how many of our players you think understands this history and the importance of that today, especially those in the Caribbean, in the third world?
I think some of the Caribbean guys do, and but for the most part, the new cricketers are coming. It actually boils down to immigration. So you see the 60s, a lot of the West Indian Caribbean guys coming in, and they have that sense of racial justice and things that comes from the game, because you grow up in Guyana, you go up the Cartine Coast, you look at Rohan Kanai, all of those guys. It was all part of the political evolution as self-respect. But I think as far as in the 1990s, when IT came in, and you got a lot of Indian engineers, or what I call the Gujarati, they're much more interested about setting up the internet than they are about the history of the game, and they just want to go out and play. I think what they like about the game, and I played with a lot of these guys, is the fact that it kept them out of trouble while they're in the marriage market. So it was a chaste way to get some exercise and look good for your future bride. A lot of those guys don't come back into the game after they get married. And a lot of those children that are raised in the families that grow up in the United States, they get to end up playing soccer and not cricket. So we're losing a tremendous amount of people, second generation. And I've tried to focus on the second generation stuff through coaching. It's easy to set up an academy and have guys pay you $500 to train their kid as a high-end babysitter, basically. It's a lot more difficult to go out to somewhere like Compton, where people haven't even heard the word cricket, and get those guys to participate, because you really have to hook their interest. And when I found I could do it with the homeless guys back in the 1990s, we did a trip to England, and we actually won the tour. We played 7 games. I think we won 5 of them. And I did have some ringers. I had some good players. I had one guy, who played for Lancashire. These weren't. So we were playing top quality cricket, which surprised a lot of the teams we came up against. And as a result of that, the homeless got that sense of respect that they could do things on their own. And I think that's what cricket gives you overall, is that sense of a worldwide template, a good sense, a geopolitical knowledge that comes to play, which we use in terms of educating the kids as well. And I think, a lot of the coaching academies emphasize too much the technique, because technique it's got to be developed if you're going to be a good player. But if you don't see the social aspects of what cricket can do when you have forced to retire because your body falls apart, then I think you're losing half the game. And because I think we actually have a unique sport that can really bring people together on the playing field. And I think we need to do more of that. And unfortunately, I think a lot of cricket around the United States is in individual silos with individual, leaders that have led it over certain periods of time. But I think the stuff that you and MAQ are doing with this, where you bring everybody together Zoom-wise, I think now we can, because of technology and because of what the IT guys have done, we can move cricket from the Gilded Age into something where, guys from Pakistan can get paid, and you can turn it around. But you can't forget the roots of the game here either, and that's where the history is important. I think that's important.
Wonderful indeed. It's good that the guys have from the U.S. Cricket Hall of Fame has have recognized your work, and now you're being honored. But I would like to see your work spread across. I would like for you to find a medium. Having this is the first day that we're speaking, and I'll tell you something. Definitely, I'm gonna have you back on MAQ TV. I think we could even do a series with let's talk history of the game. I think it's a valuable resource. What are your thoughts of those guys at the Cricket Hall of Fame?
Well, I mean, I have tremendous respect for quite a few of them. I mean, Brian Close, is a guy that I always looked up to that could handle the fast bowling from the West Indies. So Hilary Beckles has actually looked in all of the slave registers in Barbados and done tremendous work, both historically, and I know he must love cricket as well, otherwise he wouldn't be that passionate about what he did. So, when you have that academic recognition as well, I think that's wonderful. And Malcolm Nash, I coach cricket with here in Los Angeles. So I met Gary Sobers that way, when we ran the under 13 group. So the major point here is that these are cricketers, but they've done other stuff. They've built on, they've expanded the game. And those are guys I respect. It's guys that aren't being totally selfish and that pass things on. And I think if we can encourage that through the Hall of Fame, then all power to it. And I'm looking forward to actually going in there and seeing, everybody that's on the walls. It'd be kind of interesting to read about how they got there.
That's wonderful indeed, David. I want to thank you for joining us for this short interview on MAQ TV. We look forward to staying in contact with you as we move along.
Okay, and thank you for the connection. Sounds great.
Well, you've heard it there from David Sentence. We want to congratulate him again for being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And we want to wish you, David, all the best. And to all of the viewers, keep viewing MAQ TV.